I decided to make some egg whites. So I'm gonna start talking, yapping while I cook. So programming is all about specificity. What you train specifically, you're going to adapt to specifically. So your body is not confused. Your body will adapt if you are consistent, and if you just really struggle with finding something that you feel like yields the results that you want to see, or that you just can't stick with it because it's just not meshing for whatever reason, whether it be like the schedule isn't working, the workouts aren't hitting, whatever it is. You need to be specific to your goals. And for example, if you want big glutes, you need hip dominant movements like hip thrusts. My oil is popping. RDLs, kickbacks, and anything that's like a glute bias movement. High mechanical tension, moderate to high volume, and at least 2 to 3 days of glute focused work, for example. So if you were trying to build your glutes and you only have 2 leg days that maybe you're just kind of hitting every willy-nilly, that is why you're not seeing results. I thought I set my straw down and it's too short, so it disappeared. But for example, if you want round shoulders, I'm mentioning things that I want because of bodybuilding, but if you want round shoulders, you're gonna have to have a higher volume for your delts. You're gonna have to make sure that you use other methods like eccentrics if you start to hit a plateau, and high frequency. So not just being able to get away with a couple days a week and missing a bunch of sessions. And same thing, if you want to lose fat, you have to train specifically for fat loss. This one's a little bit different because weight training does help with fat loss, but most people are missing the point of, hey, if I do these really hard workouts, I'm going to lose weight. Not going to happen. You can definitely help by having workouts that are just more people. How can I put this? Because it's really hard to explain this to someone who's been a cardio bunny and seen results from it. But you do need a calorie deficit, obviously. I've mentioned that in my video about what you're doing wrong in a recomp, and training that preserves your muscle so that when you are in a fat loss phase, you're not losing the muscle that you worked hard to build. And so a lot of people will switch to just cardio and neglect the strength training. You don't want to do that if you're trying to lose fat, and you want to have enough recovery, which they also typically don't do. I'm saying this because I was this person. And then also just having too many steps, going too deep into an energy expenditure, an energy deficit, to where they just can't get the results that they want. So just if you want to get stronger, some things that you need to make sure that you have are heavy loads, lower repetitions, longer rest times, high technical practice, obviously, so you don't hurt yourself and so things feel good, and progressive intensification, whatever that means for you. So let me measure these fucking egg whites real quick. Yeah. Look, check it. Put it on to scale. You go, I use grams for egg whites. Then you go here. Don't underestimate how much I need to eat. That's only 160. So I get this one, 160 minus 30 for the carton. And now I'm at 260, which is perfect. That's how you do it. But I'm trying to decide if I want to, this is going to be weird. I eat cold shit all the time. My mom used to make fun of me. Not make fun of me in a bad way, but she used to tease me because I would eat leftovers cold. I don't even know why. I don't know. That's weird. I've done it since I was little though, so I'm eating this beef. Cold beef. Y'all ever had cold beef? I don't know what the fuck's going on this morning, sorry. You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyways, so with that training specificity, let me make sure I'm not gonna burn this shit. What the fuck? Jesus. Nobody likes making crepes, it seems. But you also want to choose the right training variables for whatever your little heart desires. And variables are things like volume, which is how much stimulus you're giving, intensity, how heavy it is relative to what your maximum capacity is, and of course frequency, how many times are you going. I'm afraid I'm gonna fuck up my egg whites, so I'll be right back. So those variables that I mentioned are your big levers. And so if you do these right, your results are gonna go crazy. So the first one I mentioned, volume. Oh, this is my kimchi. Delicious. I don't know. But so there's different volume recommendations. And I say that recommendations because everybody's body is a little bit different. Someone's legs might blow up with a lot of volume. Someone's legs might blow up with heavier sets. So you have to Learn over time what your body adapts to best. Everybody's a little different, and that's okay. Just don't worry yourself into a hole. Just pay attention, notice things. You obviously have to track things for a long time to be able to know if it works for you. So, consistency. For hypertrophy, we're talking sets per muscle group per week. So that means not in a workout, but how many sets you're hitting that muscle per week. And so for hypertrophy, you want to land in 10 to 20 hard sets per week per muscle group. And for strength, you want to do low, moderate sets, high intensity. The volume for that will vary, but the intensity is high. And then fat loss is the same as hypertrophy, but volume must match your recovery. So you have to be able to know when you need to pull back or when you need a rest day. And also what you should be doing without having to reach that burnout point so that you can keep going. And then anything that you're trying to grow, delts and glutes, for me, they typically need more volume than something like chest. Looks like a fat girl arm. Girl, get over it. But volume is how much stimulus you're giving within your program. And then, let me turn this off before I burn my house down, girl. But the intensity is how heavy it is relative to your max. And so for hypertrophy, you want to be working in 0 to 3 RIR, which is reps in reserve. And that means you can still control the load, but you're struggling at the last few reps. If anything, you think that you have 0, 1, 2, or 3 more reps in your tank realistically. And studies show that we actually shortchange ourselves by about 4 reps. And I have that in my mind after I heard that. And so when I think I'm failing, I'll try to get 2 or 3 more. And that's a good way to go about it. Obviously, while form and technicality is staying as sound as possible, and that's why a lot of bodybuilders will use machines, because you can go to failure without risking injury. So keep that in mind. Machines are not the solution to your problems. I am a free weight girly, but machines are very helpful tools. So for strength, you want to be in the intensity range of 80 to 95% of your 1 rep maximum. If you don't know what your 1 rep maximum is, then I would say try to find what your 5 or 3 rep maximum is. And if you still can't, or if you feel really afraid to try to figure that out, you can even go for your 10 rep max and try to do the math. There's websites that will actually do the math for you on what your 1 rep max estimation is. And I used to use that. I can't remember this specific website. I would just do a Google search and it was like the first one, 1 rep max estimate. But I used to use that all the time. I used to be really good at it, and now I memorize my numbers. But that is something that's really helpful if you are trying to get stronger in something, or if it just motivates you to get stronger, as well as having some really sexy muscles. That is a great tool to use. And then before I go to the next thing, which is frequency, intensity is the key driver for neural adaptation and tension. So intensity is very important. And this may change, and you might be able to better gauge your intensity as you get more experience. And if you are experienced, I still struggle with knowing where my intensity is sometimes, so it's okay. Just do your best. And then with frequency, most research supports that 2 times a week for a muscle group for hypertrophy. So if you're trying to grow it, hit it at least twice a week. And then especially glutes and delts, you can hit up to 3 times. So for weight loss, frequency helps you maintain muscle during a deficit, and with strength, it just depends on your recovery. So some people could have an SBD, which is like a squat, bench, deadlift split, and some people will do something else. I swear to God, I picked up this kimchi and didn't eat it. So that's frequency. There's not much to that. That one's very specific on what you actually can do. If you pick 5 times a week and you have extracurricular hobbies, 3 kids, 2 full-time jobs, bitch, you're not going 5 times a week. Unless you're a super mom, which is definitely possible. I have clients that are definitely super mom. But unless you're getting up at fucking early as hell and trying to get that shit in before the day takes it away from you, it's going to be really difficult. So with frequency, you also want to pick something that is realistic. Just because it's ideal for your goal, say hitting glutes 3 times is ideal for your goal, but you can only do 3 times a week, then you're going to be hitting glutes all 3 of those days. But don't think that you have to have 3 days that are just for glutes. Pick a schedule that actually works for you. None of this shit matters if you are not consistently consistent. And what I mean by that, it's not like, oh, I was consistent this week and the next week I shit the bed and then the week after that I'm kind of consistent and then I'm back to consistency. No, consistency means I have the goal of 3 times a week because that's most realistic and I hit 3 times a week. If that's not realistic, go down to 2 and make it the 2 best workouts that you can think of based off of your specificity goals and what you need. But do something that actually works for your lifestyle. You'll feel much better emotionally and it'll be much easier to stick to. And then eventually, if your schedule opens up or life changes a little bit, you can add some more stimulus, or you can even add some like home workouts or things that you feel like are actually within your bandwidth. But don't pick things that are out of your bandwidth. Pick things that are in your bandwidth, and then you can add things as that bandwidth starts to increase or as you start to enjoy exercise more if you don't already enjoy exercise. All of this is also really easy for me because I genuinely enjoy working out. It's not something that I do because I want to change how I look anymore. It's something that I actually like doing. It brings me a lot of joy. And eventually I hope that you guys can reach that point too if you're not already there. The next thing is rest. Rest is the underrated queen. I'm really bad at rest days, but I've also been lifting pretty consistently. I don't think I've intentionally missed. I've only intentionally missed for deloads or taking days off because of vacation, but I've rarely missed a workout since I started lifting, which was when I was about 14 years old. So my body has gotten used to a lot more frequency. So sometimes if my advice sounds, I don't always take my own advice because I'm in a different phase than who I am targeting this video for. And that's just a long way to say, these are my suggestions. Listen to what I say. Don't do what I do. Listen to what I say. So for me, I only take 1 to 2 rest days a week. And on those rest days, I typically will do cardio of some sort. And I recommend that everybody has a minimum of 2 rest days, just because, unless you're also in the same position as me, of course. And so rest also means not only rest within your program, but also rest within the actual workouts that you're doing, like the workout for Wednesday, for example. And you want to have at least 3 to 5 minutes between sets if you're trying to work on strength. For hypertrophy, I always do 1.5 to 2.5 minutes just because I want to hit it at full tank, but I don't want to lose the stimulation that I'm feeling. Sometimes the mind-muscle connection goes away a little bit for me if I wait too long. And sometimes I'm just fucking lollygagging and I just take longer. But rest within the workout is also important. And with fat loss, if you decrease the rest times, that's a good way to keep your heart rate up and to keep things moving and grooving and have a little bit more challenging workout. But don't sacrifice rest time if your performance quality drops. So make sure that if you have a really short rest time, maybe 15 seconds, make sure that your performance quality is the same, or unless you're doing something like drop sets or AMRAP or something like that. And you can always break up the sets too. So maybe you feel really strong for a set of shoulder presses for 10 reps, and on the next one, you feel pretty tanked by 6 or 7. You can break it into 2 sets, that's called myo sets, and I hit 6, take like a 5-second rest, 10 seconds, whatever you need, and hit the last 4. That still counts. So just try to get the same amount if you can. And obviously it depends on your goals, but that's what I think in terms of hypertrophy. If you're like, man, I can't hit 10 again, try to break it up a little bit or drop the weight and back it up. So the next is gonna be actually building out the week, but I'm actually gonna eat now. So, sorry, I'm watching this Physical Asia, but this is Bartholomew. He's my Build-A-Bear. His scarf is all fucked up. I'm pretty sure Zuko fucking hates this thing, but it's okay. Zuko probably will be joining me, but this is Bartholomew. Isn't he cute? I'm actually a Ravenclaw, but green matches my decor. So, and he can be his own person. But anyways, so for your, how to build out your actual week, so this would be like your split. Typical splits that you might see are push-pull legs, upper, lower, full. Those would all be obvious 3-day splits. But your weekly split should match your goal and your recovery timeline. So you want to have, for example, if you want big glutes, you're going to have 2 to 3 glute days, a quad day at least, and some sort of upper split. So upper, lower, or upper, upper. So that could be anywhere from a 5 to 6 day split. But if you have the goal of nice shoulder, then you want to have your delt volume sprinkled across 2 to 4 days. And so those don't necessarily have to be all upper body days. They can be lower body days with a little bit of shoulders. Here he comes.
Hi, puppy. What you doing?
He can sit here if he wants.
You want to sit down right here?
Just wanted to blow his snot all over me. And if your goal is fat loss, you might be doing something like full body or upper lower splits, and you want to have at least 3 to 4 days of lifting, steps and cardio on off days, and a sustainable structure, because a fat loss phase should not be forever for somebody, but you still want it to be sustainable, so something you can stick with long term. And if your goal is strength, you might have full body days. I think that's really good to have as full body days, and have a daily undulating periodization. If you're just starting out, you don't have to worry about that, but you can look it up. And then your squat, bench, deadlift variations weekly. So I can go into more depth on that if I just don't feel like it, honestly. But your ideal split is the one that you can recover from, not the one that looks sexy on Instagram. So someone else's split may not work for you, and their goals may be drastically different than what you're trying to accomplish. Just because someone has your dream body does not mean that they have the right program for you. It could be genetic, and it could be many other things. So keep that in mind. So the exercise selection within those workouts. There is nuance here, obviously, but this is where people drop the ball. They choose exercises that they've seen instead of things that work best for them, and they don't really go off of biomechanics. They just go off of vibes. So if you want movements that target the muscles lengthened, positioned, apply high mechanical tension, that you can progress. So pick patterns to build your workouts first. What that means is you want to think of the main patterns. Those main patterns are squats, hinges, hip extension, a lunge, horizontal vertical pull, abductions, and cores. I would also put carries in here with core, just because a farmer's carry or an overhead walk does a lot more for anterior pelvic tilt and back pain than crunches and such will do. So yes. And then also pick your exercises, of course, on the availability of machines and equipment that you have, your anatomy, your injury history, and your skill level. So there are less and more advanced movements. So here's some examples on how to structure that. If you want glutes, you're going to prioritize those big movements first. So you're going to do a hip thrust, RDL, glute bias leg press, cable kickbacks at the end. So that's an isolation exercise. So you want to start with your compounds. I always say 2 challenging compounds, 2 to 3 challenging compounds. I like, for myself, if I was doing a power building program, for example, I would have a heavy squat and a heavy hip thrust, and then maybe a hypertrophy RDL, and then I would go into my accessories like hamstring curls, glute kickback, abductions, etc. So I always start and base my workout around those harder movements, the ones that nobody likes. And then I always have those 2 in the beginning that are the most challenging. Usually those are my barbell movements. And then after that, I'll start to go into my hypertrophy work. So even if I have, say, 2 heavier compounds and then maybe 2 hypertrophy-based compounds, I would make sure that the intensity matches what I need to for recovery and anything else that I'm trying to accomplish within that workout or within that phase. So I choose exercises that I can get stronger with and work on my form in the beginning, and then the things that are more challenging as far as heart rate and repetitions and stuff as I move through the workout. And making sure that you have, the next one is progressive overload, which is the growth engine. I got him this horn thing. He loves it. You want to take it over there, or you want to sit right here? Go. He's good now. But progressive overload doesn't only have to be going up in weight, especially if you feel like maybe there's room to grow in your form, or you just don't feel comfortable or confident going up in weight yet because it doesn't quite feel right yet. There are many things that you can do to progressively overload. The main ways are to add load, add reps, add sets, slow the tempo down, increase your range of motion, get better form, better mechanics, pauses, which I would call like isometrics, and then slow tempo I'd call either tempo reps, where you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or eccentrics, where you go 1, 2, 3, up, 1, 2, 3, up. Those would all be what I would consider slowing the tempo. And then, of course, increasing the weekly volume. Just pick one method at a time. Don't do all of them at once. Just pick one that you feel like is good. I always like to focus on a couple exercises to really focus on going up in weight on. So maybe it's like squats and deadlifts or hip thrusts. And then the other ones, I really focus on having those other things really down pat. And how I progressively overload in something that I'm trying to build weight in is I'll say I'm doing 225 for my squat. This week I'll do 225. Next week I might do, depending on how it feels, I might do 225 again and maybe add a couple reps. And then that following week I'll do eccentrics, so slowing down the hard part. And then the week after that I might go up in weight. It just depends, and it also depends on if you were already shortchanging yourself, then maybe your jump isn't from 225 to 230. Maybe it's like, oh, I was really shortchanging myself. I'm jumping from 225 to 285, and that feels like I'm at that, I haven't talked about RPE, I'm at that 80 to 90% intensity there. So it just depends, but pick a method that feels good for you and that you feel like you can sustain and that motivates you. And if you have got stuck with going up in weight, try changing up the tempo, maybe adding a set instead of adding weight. There's lots of things that you can do. He never wants to play with me. He wants me to hold it while he plays. So he's like a little toddler, but it's okay. I love him. But those are all ways that you can progressively overload. And also remember that recovery, this is the last one. Recovery is the biggest component in your success. And that doesn't mean rest days. It also means eating enough protein, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, getting steps in to minimize the lymphatic inflammation so it helps things move smoothly. You want to make sure that you're managing your fatigue correctly. Stress, stress would be like mental fatigue, I feel like. And then make sure that you deload every 4 to 8 weeks. All that means is decrease your volume by 50% or increase your intensity by 50%. Just do something that decreases the stimulus, or you can change. I always do 3 full body days that are lighter weight circuit style, or just 3 lighter workouts instead of doing my usual split and then going back to it that following week after the deload. But deloads do help a lot. It's something that I neglected for a really long time. But just because I was like, I'm not tired, but your nervous system can get tired without you mentally clocking that you're tired. So keep that in mind. But that is your beginner's deep dive into programming and what goes through my head. There is a lot of nuance, but there are also a lot of specifics. And there's, of course, customization with everything. I pick movements that not only that I like, but that I enjoy doing. And just because there might be a machine that does something better, but if I don't like it, I'm not using it. So I pick things that I know I enjoy and that I feel good and that I have a good mind-muscle connection with. Can you say hi to the people? He is so obsessed with this thing. I just got it yesterday. Shout out TJ Maxx. Can you take it over there on your bed? Don't wipe your eyes. Go over there. He's such a good boy. So you can apply this structure to any goal, and then you just kind of adjust from there based off of the results you're seeing, the results you're not seeing, and just the more variables that you're aware of. Not that you have to manipulate them all the time, but the more things that you're aware of, even if you're not necessarily going for a step goal, if you know what your steps are, if you know what your calories are, if you know you're keeping track of how you're feeling during workouts, even if it's just in your notes app, you have more fruitful results because the things that you have available to you to change or to stay the same, and which things might be bigger needle movers than other things just based off of the data that you collect on yourself. So make sure that you pay attention and you program things for what specifically works for you. But when you understand the principles, the programs just start to become a little bit automatic. So I've made more programs than I have made meal plans for myself, more grocery lists. I have made more programs than I have grocery lists at this point in my life. And all of the programs that I have are specific to that person's goals. I do work for this beautiful company called Trainwell. I am a trainer there, and we have many beautiful trainers. I'm not trying to sell you on training with Trainwell, but just as an idea, if you look into Trainwell, we do make specific programs for every single client. and we do put a lot of time and care into those things. It is very automatic for me just because it was drilled into my head in college, but I love making programs. I love learning about exercise science and challenging myself to do better. So I'm really hoping that this shit was not fucking focused on Bartholomew the whole time. I'll be pretty pissed. But either way, let me know. I'm gonna record a leg day this weekend, I believe. So my next video will be another workout video. I'm probably gonna alternate. Eventually I'm gonna start posting 2 videos a week. I just don't wanna, again, I don't wanna oversell myself and just pick with what I know I can be consistent with. So still doing weekly videos. Next one will be a training video, and I think I'm gonna undulate between education and training. So happy, hopefully no more program hopping. See ya.